Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. Woo, day 3 of BiblioCon. So thank you for everyone who's gotten up to join us for Office Hours. Today, we're joined by Nina Coutinho, Director of Product. Her pronouns are she, her, and Tim Gordon, Product Manager for BiblioCore and Biblio Events, and his pronouns are he, him. So for all the Office Hours today, we're going to first look at the questions that are submitted in the partner portal section, and then we'll take questions via chat. In this case, we don't have any questions in the partner portal, so we're just going to turn it over to Nina and Tim in a second, and we'll just take questions via chat. So think about what you want to talk about in this next 30 minutes. And if you'd like, you can turn on a live transcript by clicking on the button located at the bottom of your video screen in the purple bar. And the transcript of these sessions is also available upon request. So, and I should say I'm Erica Reynolds. I'm VP for Customer Success at BiblioCommons. But with all that said, I will turn it over to Nina and Tim to take it away. Thanks, friends.
Hello, folks. Good morning. Very early morning to our friends on the West Coast and other parts of the world. So very nice to have you here. Thank you. Like Erica said, we didn't have any questions submitted. So I thought I would jump off from the presentation that we gave yesterday afternoon and just talk through kind of the big steps that you need to take to get set up and get started with BiblioCommons Analytics Platform. And we'll just live walk through some of those, and then Tim and I are going to show you some explorations so you can sort of understand how to play in a sandbox with your data once you have it set up. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Erica or Tim, once you see my screen, can somebody give me a thumbs up?
Yep, it's all good.
Yeah, we
Excellent.
see it.
Lovely. All right. So for those of you who might have joined us yesterday, we talked about how to make data lovable. In order to make data lovable, you first have to have data. So I believe most people who are joining us today, in fact, the vast majority of our customers have already set up their measurement ID for GA4. So you're already getting basic GA4 data. In order to get BiblioCommons Analytics Platform data, you do need to do one big step, which is setting up BiblioCommons Analytics Platform custom dimensions in your GA4 interface. So once again, I said this yesterday, but just a reminder, please do this soon. Do it as soon as you can. And then as we release new ones, occasionally we'll let you know and we'll inform you to update those as well and add them as custom dimensions. So first step, let's look at the list. So in Partner Portal, we have this lovely article that tells you about all of the entities and custom parameters. And these are the ones that we're suggesting that you add as custom dimensions in GA4. So not all of these may be applicable to you. You may only want a few of them to answer the specific questions that you're interested in. You know, you might be most interested in BiblioWeb cards, or you might be most interested in, another example, Tim, my brain isn't there yet, library content type or lists, exactly, yeah. Thank you. So if you don't, start with the questions that you want to ask and make sure that those specific dimensions are the ones you set up. But if you want to set them all up, that makes sense too, no problem. That could allow you to access the data later. But the most important thing is that this is not retroactive. So you need to set them up. And like I say, you kind of have to open the door. You have to like make a door there and open it up for that data to come into the GA4 interface for you to have it going forward. So we're sending it, but if the door isn't open, it's not going to go into your database. So how do I do that, Nina? Okay, if you can see my screen, I am using Chicago Public Library's analytics, their GA4 interface. So thank you to Tiff and our friends at Chicago. But here I'm just going.
Nina? Yeah. So Natasha had asked if you can zoom in more. She said it's really small. One note though for everyone, you can also expand your screen. So there's like a little corner if you're looking at in feed loop, there's a little arrow in the corner where you can make it go to full screen as well. And I just also want to mention that the fabulous Tiff is here. So hi Tiff. And before you get started, I just want to jump in with one more question. John had asked, I did attend the BC AP session yesterday, but I'm still unclear by what you mean by the BiblioCommons analytics platform. Is it just the work you've done to integrate GA4, or is BiblioCommons also saving data itself on a separate platform?
Oh, good question. So it's both. One is all the custom parameters and entities and dimensions that we're capturing for you. But we also capture that data for all libraries because we use it ourselves. But if you're asking if we've created an interface, a separate interface, no, we are not yet doing that. We are building something like that for patron metrics and engagement. So it is coming. It's just a separate piece. But that will be very rich data. It'll also include, a lot of tools, our North Star metric, all of that, which will be unique metrics and unique data analysis tools that we are building in as a separate product. But for now, when we talk about the platform, we're talking about all of the data that we make available through, and you can interact with it through GA4. And then we are also creating dashboards, et cetera, in Looker that are interactive dashboards. So these aren't really a separate interface. We're building them as Looker Data Studio reports. But the idea is like this should function a little bit like a dashboard for your BiblioCommons analytics platform data, but it's living. We're using Looker Data Studio as the tool for that. Does that make sense? If you have follow-up question, please post it in the chat. We're coming up with a visual to make this make a little bit more sense, where we haven't quite got there yet. So bear with us as we take your questions and learn to tell the story a little bit better.
John says, yes, it does help. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks, John. Okay, so let's talk about setting up a custom dimension. So you're going to go into your admin. I hope this is big enough now, which is in this bottom left corner. And you're going to go to custom definitions. And why does this say custom definitions rather than custom dimensions? That is because there are two types of things you can do. You can create custom dimensions, or you can create custom metrics. For our purposes, ignore custom metrics. You don't need them for the foreseeable future. Just ignore them. This is where you find the custom dimensions. And again, this is kind of like where you open the door for all of this custom data that we're sending you to have it come into your GA4 interface. And so as you can see, we've got lots of things already set up for Chicago, but let's pretend that we don't, and we're going to set up, a new one. So we set up create custom dimension. This is where you'd put the dimension name. I recommend writing BC at the beginning of each custom dimension name, because sometimes there's an overlap with an out-of-the-box GA4 metric, like product, for example. GA4 has a product thing that they mostly use for e-commerce. We don't use that, but we consider a BiblioCommons product to be core or web or email, and so we use a similar name. So I always recommend putting BC at the beginning of your name. And then you would pull in a description. I often just use the definition from our documentation, and then you would choose the parameter from here. And so what it ends up looking like when you've set one up, if I go to edit this one, is, for example, the BC Bib audience. That's the audience assigned to a bibliographic resource. Examples of that would be teen or juvenile or adult. This is what it would end up looking like. So this is my dimension name, description, and it's you are always choosing the event parameter from a delimited list of things that we're already sending you. So you don't have to think about, what this parameter is. We're already sending this data, and Google knows that we're sending it to you. It just wants to know, hey, how do I define this? Where do I put it? Cool. Okay. Now you have all these lovely custom dimensions, and from the date that you set them up, that data starts flowing into your GA4 interface. Now, what can you do with it? You can use out-of-the-box reports that come with GA4. So, for example, Tim, what's a good example? My brain just went blank. I can use events. Events actually don't use custom dimensions, but I'll just, I can filter by them. So let's say here are a bunch of events. A lot of these are also unique to BiblioCommons, like BiblioCommons catalog search, for example, but you don't need to set up the event names. Those are going to automatically come in. But let's say I create a filter using one of my custom dimensions. So I'm going to filter for, like I said, bib audience. Hopefully this is going to work. We're going to find out. This is where it comes to, this is where we play. Bib audience exactly matches adult. So let's see what's happening. What kind of events are happening on bibs that are for adults? So I'm filtering the events report for bib audience exactly matches adult. This is Tim pointed out this morning, this is very similar to faceting and filtering in your BiblioCore instance, or, you know, those kinds of things. It's the same kind of concept. You just have to set up the data to be structured, so then you can use filters and facets like this. And now you can see, okay, so we've got bib audiences. This is all the bibs that are related to adults, sorry, that have adults as an audience. And here are the events that are happening on those and the count. And this is for the dates, the last 28 days, which is generally the default on all Google reports. Happy to discuss why that is at another time. Yeah, and so you can then drill down from there and ask additional questions from there, look for, you know, additional information, those kinds of things. So that is how you play with the out of the box reports. I find these useful on occasion, but frankly, they don't answer specific questions for me most of the time. It's something that I'm saying, did our page views go up and down, or those kinds of things. Those are the basic questions you can answer with those out of the box reports. I prefer to make my own explorations. Maybe that's because I like to control things. I don't know. But I like to make my own reports. So if we're going to go into explorations, that's where you make your own reports. Pardon me. And this is where you can start to play. And I like this because it allows me to combine and contrast things. Often I break things and the report doesn't work, or those kinds of things where I figure, oh, that's not the same combination. That's fine. Enjoy it. Enjoy the play. So let's try something. Erica or Tim, do you want to give me a question? Let's see if I can figure it out.
What was the most, well, okay, this is probably too easy though. What was the most popular list in the last month?
All right, let's find out. Okay, so we're going to start with list. So I'm going to go into my dimensions, and I want to, basically I have to pull things into my canvas or into my sandbox. I need to say, okay, these are the dimensions I'm working with. This is just because the interface would be crazy if every single dimension was listed on the left side here. It's not because you have to pull in any specific data or anything else like that. It's just these drop downs on the side, these settings, variables, etc., would be too long if you had everything listed. So that's the only reason you have to import it. That's all. So I'm going to pull in my list title and I'm going to import that. Import's a bad word, but I'm going to add it to my sandbox. And then you wanted to say, sorry, which one is the most popular? Like had the most page views?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I also need metrics. So let's try views. All right, and I'm going to import that metric to my sandbox. And then I need to replace this table. So this is the default table that comes into Freeform. You can try a lot of different things if you want. I like to just start with the Freeform table and replace the things that are here. So I'm going to remove city as a row, although it's nice to see there's so many other folks visiting Chicago's website. Okay, I'm going to add a row for BC list title. So that tells me which ones. Then I'm going to, I find device category fascinating because there's often very different traffic on desktop to mobile. Remembering that a lot of our libraries use desktop computers in the library itself. So sometimes I think that skews some of the data. So it's very useful to look at your mobile traffic.
Yeah. Like look at that, where like the Avengers movie series is more popular on mobile than it is in desktop.
Yeah, super popular.
Significantly.
Yeah, I'm imagining this is because, people are probably visiting it from other links, external links, maybe Reddit, or, we could dive into that and find out where the traffic's coming from. Okay, and these are active users, so I'm just going to change this to look at just basic views. So, so you don't need to know the definition of an active user for this. All right, I'm going to remove device for now, just to simplify this a little bit. And then I'm going to sort the other way. All right, so not set, we can just remove. I like to just remove it by changing the start row. It just means that variable is not set on a lot of views. And here you are. Now you have your lovely exploration that shows you in the last 28 days. Yep, in the last 28 days, which were the most viewed lists for Chicago. Does that make sense?
Amazing. Yes. We have a question from Hope.
Excellent.
She says, have definitely seen the no data to display in explorations and realize I broke something because there is definitely data about it somewhere in the belly of GA4.
Yes, I think sometimes it's a combination thing. So there might be a dimension that doesn't work with that metric. What's a good example? Let me think. For example, okay, so we don't use transactions for the most part. So what happens if I try to put transactions in here instead of views? No data, because we don't capture transactions because, of course, libraries aren't taking money for any of the things that we are doing. But we do, of course, take holds. So that would be our definition there. So let's try just bib group key, which is essentially the grouped title name for an item. So you would be able to do bib group key, but of course that doesn't have transactions either because we are not using e-commerce transactions. But if you add here, oh, I need to import it, holds. Oops. Sorry, did I do something wrong? Oh, it's a type of event. Silly Nina. If I put event count in here for all of these different bib group keys, please pardon the special characters in here. We're working on that. And then I filter this. I'm going to say I want specifically, oh, sorry. I want specifically event name. I need to import event name. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. I specifically want events that are hold placed. There you go. So transactions won't work because we don't capture that metric. That's not something that happens on a BiblioCommons website, but holds placed do. I know that was a little bit complicated. I can walk through it again in a second, but I just wanted to give an example of like sometimes you're going to combine things that just don't match up, and that's okay. You might need to try something a little bit different to capture exactly the data that you're looking for.
So just to keep you filled in, because just so you guys, Nina can't see the comments that you guys are
doing. I can't, sorry.
No, Tiff had said, it's interesting that in the list one, number 2 and number 3 were both from 2019 and 2018. And so cool, evergreen lists, for the win, as Tiff says.
Love it.
And I mentioned that we have noticed that when there's been a couple of lists that were like the most popular list across all BiblioCommons, and they were specifically promoted on Reddit. And so those obviously bump up. So thinking about, and one of the things I like that you say, Nina, is when you're ask, is the middle one analyze or is it an act? Analyze. Okay, so ask, analyze, act. I think that is part of the question too, is like, what do I do with this data then? So if I see this, how do I act on it?
Okay, so you know that these are popular bibs that are having that people are placing holds on. Great. Maybe you know the top 15, right? Like maybe you already know, okay, these are super popular, they're flying off the shelves, you're already aware of it. But I would look through this and say like, hey, are there some bib titles that are surprising to me? Could I promote them better? Or better yet, are there some that are rising over time? And I could say, hey, this one's becoming more popular. Let me make a read-alike list for this as it's getting popular so that people who are waiting and placing hold have something to do and have something to read in the middle. And maybe that helps to promote your mid list, help to, get people to place holds on some less popular books. So let's talk about how you might look at this in terms of time. So this is a lot of data. But of course, it's just the number, right, over the last 28 days. Let's change the visualization, which is like how the data looks. Hopefully everybody is familiar with that phrase, to a line chart. So this is going to give me a trend over time. And that kind of shows you, okay, these things are how they're working. So I'm just going to remove not set because that excludes selection because it's skewing our lovely chart here. Just give it a little minute to think.
And we are limited in this session to only 25 minutes. So in
Yes.
theory, it ends in like 4 minutes, even though we could just all data all day.
Okay, so this is a spike. That's kind of interesting. Maybe there was a promotion that day. Maybe somebody, posted a bib or promoted it on social, those kinds of things. You could also look at this. If you're looking for a trend, I would say look longer than 28 days. So let's say the whole quarter, or you could go back as far as with custom dimensions. Oh, see, that broke because we didn't have the custom dimensions going back more than those dates. So it's going back to the date that it has data available. And you'll be able to see a trend. Okay. I really quickly want to see, so obviously these are all pretty high. I would maybe look at lower down on the list, look at maybe just adult titles or just juvenile titles or just kid titles, or sorry, just teen titles, those kinds of things. And then you could take an action. Hopefully that is helpful. The other thing I was going to say is that we are creating these out of the box reports with step-by-step instructions. So it'll tell you which dimensions you absolutely need to make this report work, how to connect your data to Looker, which is where these reports will appear, and then how you actually filter for these reports. And then on each of these, we've given you the details of what you have to do in Looker in the data here to make these happen. So these are coming. I just wanted to point that out.
Andrea had asked, where could we find this? It's beautiful.
The report?
Yeah.
They're coming. We're still in preview. We're kicking the tires on them because some of the things are a little bit finicky. So they will come in Q4, probably mid to late Q4. They will be shared in the partner portal, and we can also share them in the release, not the release notes, but the newsletter as well. So stay tuned, and we'll tell all of our CS folks and everyone to tell you and share with you. Yeah.
Fabulous. I also, again, this is so short. We didn't have this originally scheduled, but we wanted to add it because it's such an important point. But I also added a link to the data meetup that we will be scheduling. And then also mentioned that if you want us to set up your dashboard for you to pull in all the custom dimensions and things like that, we can do that for consulting. It's about $2,000 for 10 hours plus some custom reports. So anyway, another option.
We'll set all of this up for you and help you work on it with you. I would say do follow along in the partner portal here as well. So anything we post in terms of those reports and stuff will be posted in this section of the partner portal.
Yeah, follow the button. We're all about the follow.
Like and subscribe.
All right. So lots of people said it was a really helpful session. So thanks, Nina and Tim. There's just, so much more to talk about.
Oh, I was going to say, Tim has done explorations and he shared them in the partner portal. We were going to go walk through them, but I ended up taking up all the space because we were getting into these. But basically they're follow along of exactly what I just did. So he tells you exactly what question we're trying to answer, the dimensions, the metrics, et cetera, that you want to put in, and they're in the partner portal. So
Yeah,
just try
I
to
just added the
recreate
link.
them. Fabulous. Sorry, Tim, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, just expect more of them to be coming soon over Q4. If you have any specific questions that you want answered, let us know, and I can look at writing one of those for you. But also, yeah, that professional service to get it all set up is a really great way to get started with that too.
Yeah, it's a good kickstart.
Fabulous. Okay, well, amazing. And thanks to everyone. I hope you join us for other office hours. The next session that we have, which is also 25 minutes, is about support and customer success and answering tickets. And then later, every product has a whole hour. So you can hang out with Tim Gordon for an entire hour today, which right there should make your entire Friday. So thank you so much, Nina and Tim. And thanks everyone. And we will see you for office hours later today.
Fabulous. Thanks, all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.